Hello, everyone. I am Andy, coming to you from the United Kingdom again.
And I'm again in Toronto today, and my name is Scott.
Fantastic to see you again, Scott. So welcome, everyone, to the Tea and Timbits podcast, Global Perspectives on Business Development to help you prosper. Today, we're going to be talking about tough love.
Ooh.
But before we explain what we have in mind there, Scott, do you have a story for us?
Yes, I do. Are we both wearing black based on this topic here, Andy?
Yes. Maybe that's sending a bit of a message there.
Yes, if you can't see us, we've matched our outfits coincidentally today. So I was just reflecting on a couple of sort of related situations. I have had two sales situations lately where the client wasn't convinced and they needed to be sold. Now that sounds ridiculous because we're talking about a sales podcast or we're talking about sales teams and whatnot, but I don't mean convinced about hiring us specifically. I mean convinced that they even had a problem. And so they kind of had this, innate feeling that they needed something to be fixed, and they felt there was a priority there. And then they just sort of dumped it on me to say, yeah, but explain to me why I should address this problem. And I, in one, there were two separate cases, because one was they really needed help getting the rest of their business on board. And in that case, I said, no, I can't help you. Like, call me back when you're ready to evaluate if we're the right people to help you with your problem. Yeah. But you've got to know that the problem's worth addressing. In the second scenario, I could tell the person and the business had the need, they had the budget, they actually knew that we were the right fit. They just needed to build the confidence up internally and help socialize the quote unquote the argument for why we were going to do this and where the value was going to be. So I just thought I'd share that because it was the same question that I got in two different situations and treated them very differently. So.
No, very good. Yeah. Well, what was the outcome of this?
Well, one of them, the first one, was a very quick sort of sales engagement. It stayed in the pipeline for about 3 weeks. The second one is an ongoing conversation, and we're actually going to do some more work to build business case and collateral and that kind of thing, and really shore up the foundation so that when we get to work on the project, it's got a really strong starting point.
Very good. Very good. Well, let's move into today's topic, which is tough love. It's something that I had wanted to talk about, and I thought the terminology tough love just came to me just before we started recording. But it's about dealing with underperformance and working with teams and with colleagues who are not doing as they should or not performing in the right way.
And so before you continue, we've done tons of prep for this episode, right? Which is basically you put into the chat what topic you thought we should talk about, and I said yes, and then we hit record. So when I saw the topic idea, I was like, oh, that's a good one in response to client situations. So you're talking about internally, and immediately I had an external scenario. So why don't you go first and sort of share what your thoughts are, and I'll see if it dovetails in.
No, of course, absolutely. So, I mean, what I'm referring to is the scenario where you have a salesperson on the team who is continually not delivering and not meeting their numbers, and how to deal with that. Because I think what happens is a lot of sales managers, they're very busy, and they'll occasionally, they'll look at the numbers and go, oh, you need to look at that. You need to focus on that. Yeah. And that's where it sort of stops. And that conversation doesn't really evolve from there. You'll have the coaching and you go, oh, a bit behind on the numbers. How are you going to do it? They get a little bit of information back, and then they go, yeah, fine, carry on. There needs to be a plan in place, and the conversation does sometimes need to progress from that as well. So I think it's very important that we share our perspectives on how to help, a colleague who is underperforming or a team member who is underperforming, but also being willing to escalate that and raise that up and give that tough feedback when it does get to the point of going, this has been going on for 3 months now. You're still not hitting your numbers. We're having a conversation. You keep telling me you have this plan. You keep telling me you're working on this, but I'm
Yeah.
not seeing anything happening. What can we do together to turn this around? Because if we can't turn this around, then there needs to be a different conversation taking place.
Well, and I would suggest you have to be, I guess there's a progression to those conversations,
Oh,
right? When you sort
absolutely.
of start to see sort of the deviation from, what you're expecting in a with a big enough gap that it warrants conversation of that nature, then I think you have to put the timeline in place and say, well, right now we're going to just, put you on notice that we're going to have another conversation, but probably the next conversation has to say, okay, all right, if this isn't reached by, 90 days from now, then, it's the problem's just going to have to solve itself.
Yeah,
Because
but
we
I,
won't
I
be
think
able
there needs to be a progression even before you get to that point. I think it shouldn't come as a surprise to, the salesperson who's underperforming that they're now suddenly on notice, or that they're getting the spotlight on them. They should have been given, the ongoing coaching that sales managers and sales leaders are supposed to give them, that senior colleagues should see and go, I see you're struggling, or, is there anything we can do to help? There may, of course, be an occasion where you've got a person on your team who actually is underperforming and is actually a drain on the, on the
Yeah.
emotions and the energy of the rest of the team as well. And
Yeah.
then maybe it's not even worth having that 3-month conversation. Maybe it's best to just sort of go, sorry, you're not performing. You're bringing the energy of the team down. You're no longer welcome in this.
Yeah. I mean, however you have to position it. I think it's entirely different when, and so, we have individual contributors who listen, and we have managers. And so I think also, if you're an individual contributor and you know you're not hitting your numbers, it's reflected in your paycheck, it's reflected in your dashboard and your CRM. If you know that you're not reaching your numbers, do not wait for somebody else to bring it up. You will, if you're honestly, so be honest with yourself. If you're committed to the business, the organization, if you honestly believe that you have the skills and the market's right, and well, actually never blame the market, but if you have faith that it can be fixed, it can be addressed, you need to bring it up before your manager does. You need to say, listen, I need to talk to you about this, because I know the numbers aren't where they need to be. They're not where I want them to be. I know they're not where you want them to be. And I want us to have a conversation now before you initiate the conversation.
Yeah.
If you do that, it's a completely different outcome for that individual person.
Because then that individual contributor has shown that they understand the situation and that they want to do something about it. They want to improve, and it's that willingness to do it. I mean, yeah, it can turn out, of course, in that process that maybe sales isn't suited to them. Maybe the particular market or the
product
or the responsibilities they have aren't suited to them. That's
or the
fine,
process or the structure within that organization. Absolutely. And it's good enough to say we need to have the conversation. It's best to say, and here's what I think has been some of the contributing factors, but it's best to say, and here are some ideas I have on what we can do to remediate. It's a starting point for a conversation. Your manager may have different opinions. You need to be ready to have some give and take there. But I've had both situations happen where somebody's not delivering and the contributor just kind of goes along waiting for me to act, and then it's yucky. And I've had it where somebody else brings it forward to me and says, let's figure this out, because we got to make a change in direction.
And of course, you've got the overall company leadership as well, looking at the whole sales team and going, what's happening here? Why are the numbers not matching? Why? Because what I think is often forgotten is that, when you've got a person on the team who is not performing, that puts a lot of pressure on the other people in the team to have to, fill that gap, and they have to raise their game in order to cover the losses or the failed targets that the other person isn't hitting. And if the sales manager isn't addressing that to them, then they're sending a message very much to the rest of the team that they're not valued.
Yes, right. Yeah, absolutely. So as I said at the top of the conversation, I'm going to sort of pivot now. There's all kinds of other tough love situations in business development and business management. And sometimes you have to have that conversation with your client, right? And say, quite similarly, this is not going well. Corrective action needs to be taken, and all the same things apply. You know it, they know it, they're frustrated, you're frustrated. You have to get ahead of it before the client, pops a lid and it becomes a real crisis. The point that I wanted to make in this case, which now I think, this is where my brain went right away when I saw the topic, was don't skip the step to practice some empathy in these situations. No. Why are we here? So in the client situation, I'm like, why isn't this going the way all other successful projects that we do go? Mm-hmm. Why is this engagement stickier, more troublesome? And the approach I advocate is you have to default to a position of inherent trust. You have to assume the other person wants a positive outcome, and they are not sabotaging anything intentionally. No, they may be out of their depth. They may have personal things going on. There may be other factors in the business. Take some time, not to play, professional therapist, but to just say, let me just, how's it going? What else is happening? What are the other priorities? What are the other projects on your plate? How is business right now? Because, it might be that there's all these other kinds of external factors that are putting pressure on this individual, on the project, on the business context for why you started working together in the first place. And that will lead you to common ground that allows you to evaluate if we just need to grind through this, or we need to adjust sort of the approach and make some adjustments.
However, coming back to the tough love side of things, it's also very important to push back in those scenarios and go, look, there may be these things going on. There may be these challenges in this scenario that's stopping you being able to help us to deliver this project on time.
Yeah.
What can we do to take those away? Or can we take you out of it and replace you with someone else? I still think business still needs to take place. We've got to be nice to people. We've got to try and support people. And absolutely, we should try and, be as friendly and as professional as possible. But nonetheless, there are still occasions when you have to, be a little bit tough and say, look, I don't think you're the right person for this, to be involved in this project at this moment, because of these other factors that are causing it, because it's going to have an impact on their business and on your business, and the same with the sales team and so on. So
I would never say that. I
know you would. What? But if you want someone to say it for you, then you're welcome to give me a call.
Jose. Listen, okay, hold on. Like I might be a bit more diplomatic about it. I might sort of help them come to that realization for themselves, perhaps. I might give some balanced feedback to their manager, or I might escalate it up so that there can be a higher level conversation about the capabilities or relationship. But I would never go directly to the person and say, I don't think that would be toxic. That would there's no recovering from that. You cannot.
I love Canada.
You cannot deliver that and then expect to maintain a cadence of weekly check-ins with that person and have it lead to a positive outcome for anybody.
Amazing.
Anyway, it's fascinating.
I think that's the nice thing as well. I mean, it's never easy to have a tough conversation with someone, but that doesn't mean that you should avoid having that conversation at all.
Yeah, but there's just different ways to put it.
Yeah, I know.
I lost my train of thought. There was something else I was going to add into there, but I think we've covered some good bases there. I think the core concept is, don't avoid. It came back to me. Hope. It's so easy in these situations to fall back on hope and wishful thinking. And maybe if we just go one more week, it'll get better, or the problem will solve itself, or we're over budget, but maybe I can recover it later, or you know what, like we missed a deadline, but maybe in the next stage I can find an efficiency or double up a resource, and then you can't, and then it just snowballs, and then you're on your back foot, and then you should have told them 2 weeks ago, but you didn't. So now,
and that can make it even harder to have that conversation then, because I go, but that wasn't a problem 2 weeks ago, and I was doing the same thing then. It's like,
right. So you that is your nemesis in these situations is hope and wishful thinking. So I think that's one thing you need to be very aware of is, are you going on hope, and are you just biding your time and expecting things will solve themselves? That will almost never solve things for you. So anyway, great chat, Andy. Thank you.
That was a good one. No, it was very interesting, and what I liked there is the different perspectives. I mean, I have nothing against the sort of the Canadian way of doing things.
It's not Canadian
approach, and so it is. It's a cultural difference there. I think in the US even it would be a little bit more in line with sort of my more British direct approach there. But I'm not saying that's a better approach. It just happens to be the approach that I'm more familiar with and more comfortable with. But I think, again, you've got to be aware of the cultures that you're working with. And also in a multinational environment, you've got to be aware that there's going to be different cultures in a team. So yes, there can be a definite benefits to a more...
We're definitely running into overtime here, but let's I can't not respond to that one. The point I'm going to make here is, if you are on the receiving end of that kind of direct feedback, it's very easy, maybe only for Canadians, to take it personally, to say, like, they're attacking who I am, as opposed to the situation and the circumstances that I'm a part of. So you do have to practice some detachment when that is sort of happening to you as well. Don't ignore it, but remember that there's a business situation here, not a personal situation.
Although sometimes it can be a personal situation.
Sometimes it can be.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's it. Right.
All right.
Thank you very much. Anyone who's listening wants to get in touch with us, wants to learn more about tough love from either perspective and either side of the ocean, you're welcome to do so via tandtimbits.com, where you will find many ways to get in touch and many ways to stay and listen and connect with us.
Thank you very much. For the next episode, Andy. Pink shirts, not black ones. Thanks, everybody.